Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited for this session. I have got my good friend here, Keitha Pansy, who is a chief of staff. She's been a chief of staff in the current company that I work at with her, Microsoft, and she's been a chief of staff outside of Microsoft. So she's going to have some amazing and beautiful perspectives to share with us. Keitha, welcome. Can you tell my folks who you are?
Hi, thanks for having me, Anne Marie. So my name is Keitha Pansy. As mentioned, Microsoft brought us together, and my first role at Microsoft was chief of staff to one of our solution area CTOs. But as you mentioned, prior to that, I was chief of staff to a senior leader at BlackRock. I've worn the hat twice now, two different, very different leaders. And in between, I've done a myriad of other things, but always aligned to strategy and operations in a company.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, what I love to learn from the folks that are on this little series is, as a chief of staff, with your amazing experience, what are two things that you can share with my watchers that contribute to the success of a chief of staff?
Yeah, so coming in, new to big tech, new to Microsoft, and a team that maybe had been 6 months in this new org was around strategic alignment. I always say, like, what is success going to look like in come the fiscal year end, and how are we going to be measured? So setting those priorities at the top of the year, and then everything you do that's impactful needs to align back to those goals. So in my former organization, CTO, we did OKRs, so objectives and key results.
Right.
And we would set those out, right before the new fiscal year. And then every person in the organization, what you did on a day to day would tie back into it.
Wow.
So, and that being a very internal team, when you're talking a sales team and a finance shop, it's KPIs, it's metrics, it's revenue based goals. So very different. But whatever those priorities look like, I think like that needs to be top of mind for a chief of staff coming into the role. So what's that alignment to the priorities? What is success going to look like? How are you going to be measured as an organization? And how is your leader going to be measured, right? Because you are an extension of that person, of that C-suite member. And so I always would keep that at top of mind, because that should be your guideposts for the org.
Yeah, that's your North Star. I think that's a really good point that you're making, because we sometimes will set these priorities and then we go away and we do our job, forgetting that our job is to make sure that we're aware of how we're plugging into the priorities. And so I think that's an excellent point. What's something else that you think would help a chief of staff be successful?
I mean, I'm sure every chief of staff would say this. You got to be able to influence others, right?
What?
However you want to do it. I always like kill them with kindness. Bees are attracted to honey, right? And that and influence, because I go back to, you are like the right arm, left arm of that leader. So every person they're dealing with, you too, right? So you're their proxy. And so maybe it's an influence, but also being mindful of how you show up.
Yep.
Because you are that person's right hand. So you're dealing with their peers, you're dealing with their skips or level right below them. And not just within that organization, but also externally across the org, or Microsoft. Like, it can be across not just our customer and partner solution area, but it could be across, like, I got to go find someone at Microsoft Research or on the engineering side. So being mindful of like your brand and how you show up, I think is paramount.
When you were talking about being able to influence, and I smiled when you said it, because I thought it's not often that a chief of staff has a team that they've got working for them. Sometimes they've got a few people.
Right.
And those people are trying to help you line up to the priority. And so your ability to influence is so important, because these folks don't report into you. And sometimes
Most don't.
they're much more senior than you are.
That's right.
And so here you are in the trenches trying to work with them. And so your ability to help them plug into the big picture the way that you're seeing it, the way that you believe your leader is seeing it, the way that it needs to be interpreted for the organization is so important. And like you got to be a people person. You don't got to be nice, but you have to learn how to interact with people effectively to get stuff done.
You should be nice.
You should be nice. Yeah.
You should be nice.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to get things done, right? We're humans, right? So we all show up very different. I have worked, with some chief of staffs who have become my best buds. And then there are other chief of staffs where I'm like, I just need to get the work done. So give me what I need, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we got to be a chameleon.
Yeah.
We do have to be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to get. But the power of influencing others because they don't report to you, right? And like you said, sometimes you have massive, really going to depend on the size of your org. Sometimes you have chief of staffs who have like 20 plus, or then you got some with just a vendor. But the power of influencing, then knowing how to effectively communicate, no matter, where they sit from if it's I don't want to use Microsoft words here, but like early in career to a CVP, like those two, from strategic alignment or prioritization and influencing and effective communication, that is where that'd be my two like kind of pillars that I would leave with chief of staffs or those interested in being a chief of staff.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So to kind of flip the script a little bit, those are the great things that we can definitely dive into. Can you share a gotcha? Now, this can be something that either happened to you or something that you observed from one of your peers that you went, I need to make sure that I remember this so I can be different about it.
Well, I'm going to say coming into Microsoft, right? And I think just new to this, to the tech industry, workflow. When I say workflows, it flows rapidly, right?
Yeah.
And my first year, he was like, well, how are you doing? I'm like, just trying to stay afloat. Like here's the water line. I'm just trying to stay afloat and figure this thing out. And what my CTO used to say to me, she was like, you're a slave to your calendar, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I get it, and I could see her calendar, right? And so here's my aha moment. And I didn't experience this at BlackRock, and maybe it was because I was there for so many years. So I kind of understood the rhythm of that business, right?
Yeah.
Of the company and the organization. Right. And so I was learning. I was very much I'm still in a learning mode, right? Forever.
Right.
Growth mindsets here. But being new to the org, new to industry, new to this whole population of human beings, right? Being a slave to my calendar, like when you're a chief of staff, everybody wants your time, right? They want your time because they're like, what is that leader thinking about? What do I need to know? Oh, I know who can tell me. It's their chief of staff.
Yes.
And so year one, I'm taking meetings left and right. One, because I don't know what I don't need to know, what I should know or what I don't need to know. So I got to know everything.
Yes.
It was probably my first year and a half going into 2 years. So my aha moment was taking control of my calendar, right? Being mindful of who I give my time to, because there's power in deep work and deep thought.
Yes.
And so by my second year in role, I'm like blocking out. I block out. Like I need 2 to 3 hours in a day just to think. And I met with another chief of staff who's moved on to just like focus on chief of staffs. And she was like, after 12 o'clock on a Friday, I don't care where I am in the world, whether I'm on the West Coast, East Coast, or like global, because she was US based, I don't take meetings. And I was like, what? Like, how do you not take meetings after a certain time? And so I think that was probably about a year and a half. And I was like, okay, on Fridays after 2 o'clock, it is blocked off
Mm-hmm.
so I can think,
Yes.
right? And so that's my aha moment, like the power. I mean, it's not even an aha, I guess it's an aha moment that I can give myself that time.
Yes.
That's the aha moment for like deep work. And when I say deep work, it is focused, it is uninterrupted, whether it's about the business or on Fridays, I use it as my learning time,
Yes.
right? Um, there's always something here in our
Mhm.
organization that has been changed, updated, or we need to stay abreast of it, right? And so the power of just that focus time and being able to give it to myself and versus I got to be on and I got to be on not just for my leader, but for this whole entire team, because as a chief of staff, you are responsible, right? At least I felt responsible for the
Yes.
organization as a whole,
Yes.
and how we operate it. But now, and I try my best to not let that time be interrupted.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there has got to be a dire need for
Mhm.
me to meet with someone. I used to be meeting with people like 8 o'clock on a Friday, and I'm East Coast. I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. Yeah.
Uh-uh. Uh, No.
And so, holding that space for that thought time, I mean, it allows me I come out refreshed. And I come
Yeah.
out like much more engaged in knowing what I need to do. Because sometimes, as you know, so many things coming our way at once, and because no day is the same,
No.
right? Once I come out of that sometimes 3 hour block is normal, like at least 2 hours. Like I got 2 hours today. Yay. Um, I just feel more empowered and engaged in and focused in what I need to do. So
I
my aha moment being, yeah,
that.
block the time. Like I can take the time for myself and the world's not gonna fall.
Yeah. Yeah. I, you're saying in a little roundabout way, self-care is important because that's what that is. And recognizing that as much as you block time out to engage with the leadership body and that time, like we don't mess with that time. Like that is prioritized time. Your time for you should be a priority because uh, I like the trend that I've seen in some of the teams here where on Fridays they say don't schedule any meetings.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And when I see a meeting pop up on my calendar, uh, we need to have a conversation. I need to understand why you need that day because I am trying to spend that day catching up.
Catching
My
up.
inbox is never less than, well, it's always too many things. And I would love
Yeah.
to have it be really, really low.
I'm trying to get to a zero inbox. I'm working on it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna get there.
I haven't been there for a really long
Oh,
time.
I've never been there except for when I get a new account.
but but all of a sudden that time becomes so precious
Yeah.
because if there's a video that I want to watch about something that happened with the company, well, now I got 20-30 minutes that I can watch that video and not be interrupted. And so I actually encourage folks that I mentor to put time on their calendar every day that they block out.
Oh
And I
yeah.
tell them, you know what, it better, like, things better be serious for you not to reserve
Take
that
the time.
time. And if you
Yeah.
need to move it around, that's fine,
But
but it needs
but
to happen
hold it.
that day. But
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that because I know when I've started new chief of staff roles, all of a sudden I'm like, I got to attend everything and I got to talk to
Yeah.
everybody and I got to read everything and I got to watch everything. And then it's 8 o'clock and my husband's looking at me like he's still working. And I'm like,
Yep.
but I'm not done. I
Yeah, we need that uninterrupted time, right? It, and sometimes I'm using it for learning. Sometimes I'm using it like I just need to catch up on what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, or I love when I mean, like in my new role, I'm using it like, let me think about the community that I'm covering and what do they need. So spending it more like on like strategy.
Yeah.
Right. and now we're at the top of our fiscal year. So I always I love new fiscal years because okay, how are we going to be measured at the end of the year? What are those priorities that have been set? And how are we going to not just meet, but exceed them? And especially, when you're, I like to say, responsible for a group that's in the field, right? So now I've just been spending time what does success look like
Yeah.
in this business?
Awesome. So I've loved this conversation. What I got from you as a chief of staff, make sure you understand or help set the priorities, but then check back in. So it doesn't just become, this is a nice thing that we thought about and it goes by the side. That's
Yeah, checking in every 6 to 8 weeks minimum.
Yeah, there you go.
Look, that's very chief of staffy.
And then the power of your network and the ability to influence that network, because those are your partners. And then I think your final point is the best, which is make sure that you make time for yourself to be able to do what you need to do to have those creative juices going so you can plug into your org and feel refreshed, empowered, and able to actually have impact with what's going on. That's awesome. I'm about to sign off, but I want to give you an opportunity to have any parting words to my audience before I sign off with them.
Well, for those that are chief of staffs, I salute you. It's not it's not for the faint of heart, as we were speaking beforehand, I think there's a special temperance for a person who takes on a chief of staff role, right? Because you can't get frazzled easily. Like you must be grounded. For those who want to be chief of staffs, what you see in an ROB or rhythm of business is not half of what a chief of staff is doing. Like a rhythm of business is pretty easy, right? Like that's the easy part of being a chief of staff. And so I say that because as many people come to both of us about wanting to be a chief of staff, like, oh, I've done that. Well, yes, maybe you have put a town hall together. Right. But it's more than you're seeing the end result of us maybe hosting something versus there's many other things that happen before we get to that point, right? And so just take a moment if you are considering being a chief of staff, reach out to someone who is in role or who have done the job and be mindful that every chief of staff is different because every C-suite leader is different. And so depending on your leader, the priorities are going to be drastically different, right? And depending on what role they're in and where they are seated in a C-suite. So just be mindful of those nuances. That's what I would leave with your community, Anne Marie.
Thank you so much. I have enjoyed talking to you, and I just need to keep talking to you. Actually, this shouldn't have been the reason why I reached out to you this time. So I need to be better about reaching out to you. But everybody,
I know we're busy.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Keitha,
Thank
you are brilliant.
Thanks for having me. I'd do anything for you and your chief of staff community and this journey that you are on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, have this on replay. Have it on replay. It's Anne Marie, the long story short, your chief of staff. I know you enjoyed this because I did, and I will see you in my next interview. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.